about thyroid medications and other supplements?
Yeah, so basically, except for aromatic herbs and stuff like that, nothing else. Because they do have these reactive moieties, and they like thyroid, most hormones they would occupy if not bind and decrease. So what I usually tell people is like, look, I know this is a pain, but you've been sick a long time, so work with me. We're gonna pick a time during the day where there's at least an hour, you know, before you eat. And I know it's a pain, you set an alarm on your clock or whatever. And so it usually winds up being like an hour before lunch or an hour before dinner or something like that. You take a big glass of water. If they like, man, I water and it feels yucky, pick something kind of neutral that's unlikely to be heavily binding. And there's no perfect substance, but things like celery, you know, it's just fiber. That's not really going to slow it down a lot. With kids, we've used applesauce, which, you know, is better than nothing. Really little kids, actually jelly, because they're little. And if you're going to do this in little kids, you really need more information than what I can give you here. If you have to do body weight adjustment, you have other fish to fry little babies, but little kids that can talk back and spit up on you, jelly, you just get over it, you're giving them jelly, it's all right for a while, or honey or something. Interestingly, usually pretty well tolerated if they have a full glass of water. And in the entire time any of these have existed, and now I've had people in Canada and the US and some people with big practices use it. So we're talking thousands of doses. There's only been one allergic reaction, and it was me. It's a weird karma thing. Don't know how, don't know why. Got to get to the bottom of it, but not until I'm heavily monitored during the next dose. So honestly, in all of the thousands of doses of both what you see in the prescription, I'm the only one that's ever had a reaction to it. So it was epic, but we're not doing that until I just figure out what I react to.
Two questions. So one is, have you seen any patient or any case that like the patient actually graduate or cured by the protocol, that they never actually have to repeat like your protocol or any other GI protocol? Because especially cycle, I've been seeing patients coming back for one or they at least have to go on to the whole one diet basically forever. Okay, right. They have to do that another eradication. And then another question is, if we are basically breaking through the biofilm and exposing the bugs, why we are trying to make our immune system attack the bacteria instead of putting actual antibiotic on that phase?
You're actually doing both.
Okay.
So I'll answer the first order, but when you, and I normally wait until we get the immune response so we know that we're on the right track. Because occasionally you think this is the problem, they take the stuff for 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks and nothing happens, that's not the problem. So I don't start it. But as soon as they start to get the immune reaction, that's when I give them anti-infective herbs that are very broad spectrum. If I know already, that they have hemolytic strep and they have other stuff, I might give them a drug at the same time. So and the idea is not to supplant the immune system, it's just that the immune system is going to be busy, and we want the immune system to engage with the bugs, but it's going to be more than the immune system can do for a couple of weeks. Yeah, so it's good. So as far as, yes, we have had people in all categories we've talked about over the years finally get to the place where we either slowly eliminated 1 or 2 bugs at a time, chronic infections, or in the case of some of the pandas kids, gotten them back to the point of pre-pandas, so their ticks went away and their other stuff, and they stayed stable, not with no treatment, but with very kind of low-grade prophylactic things, like occasionally giving them some herbs or something just to support their immune system. So in every category, we've had people go backwards. The longer they've been sick, and the more things they've built up, the longer it takes. Because it does tend to kind of peel off in layers. And I was talking to one of the cyber doctors, just because that's all she does. So she's a great, and she kind of caught on to this early on. And she was telling me about some of the cases she had where she figured out, okay, it's time to try this. And they'd gone through like 4 different things. The other thing with either Cycle or other stuff is, if they can never get off a restricted diet, then usually there's a piece of that's in the biofilm. Because the restricted diet is therapeutically keeping them level, but as soon as you take it away, like it all comes back, something's not right. Something's not like that. And those are the cases where she would try it, and it would take, in SIBO cases that were recalcitrant, it would take 6 or 8 months, and then they would respond to her original treatments when she tried it again. So yeah, we've seen it. But I've also seen where I thought that was a problem, and I was 6, 8 weeks, 9 weeks in, and there's absolutely no response, I just stopped, and that's not. You'll get a response if that's the problem. It's like this tool works for that problem, and if the tool doesn't create an immune response, you don't need the tool. Yeah. All right. Thank you. For those of you who are in the labs today, and really it's only the last lab where I said very much about this case, but it turned out, so for those who weren't there, I'll tell you just really quick, the lady who was having the signs of upper abdominal obstruction was vomiting, and the preceptor was from Bastyr, it was a number of years ago, none of you know any of these people. Preceptor freaked out. I'm sure she had cancer. I kind of thought she might, maybe not. I don't know. Didn't feel like it. We were working. She had no money and not uninsured, so it took us a while to get some diagnosis. It turned out, my kind of feeling about after I examined her and everything was, I know she looks like she has cancer. And for those in the last session, I told you that the preceptor came back to Bastyr, asked every single supervisor at the clinic, gave them the history, and they said, no, she has cancer, she's got an obstruction. I said, no, I don't think that's what's wrong. It turned out she had this going on. This is a number of years ago. She and then the other lady who was asking me about it, or who led me back into looking into these things, because her history was just so weird and bizarre, and then all of a sudden she's acting like she has an upper bowel obstruction, and it turned out she had just grown the most amazingly bad group of organisms that she couldn't get rid of. And they were so bad that she was throwing up fecal-like material and all sorts of other stuff. So that was actually my gateway into it, and because it didn't turn out to be a cancer case, I didn't really share a lot about that earlier, but this lady's still alive, and she's not throwing up poop anymore, and it's all good. But there was a lot of bugs to kill, and she had some exposures, but she was full. Like, I mean, she had the most broad variety of bad bugs I've ever seen. Which, if you're throwing up what appears to be shit, something's wrong. Okay, and it doesn't. So anyway, that's just the end of that story. So thank you guys all very much. Thank you for everyone for buying this book. By the way, these two are actually in between a trip trying to get to Southern California, and they had to come here, were forced to come here, and so hopefully it was at least entertaining enough to be in the evening for you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. I'll hang around. I need some water.